Hello and welcome to this episode of Math with Martinez. In this video, we are going to be looking at our very first learning goal in this unit on expressions, factoring, and equations with rational exponents. The skill that we're focusing on is to add, subtract, and multiply polynomials. So let's get started with adding and subtracting. Now, adding and subtracting polynomials is really just an exercise in combining like terms. Now, really important, if we're going to be combining like terms, there are some terminology things that I want to review with you all. Coefficients, that's the first part that I want to review. Coefficients are the numbers in front of your variables, and they can be added when the variables are the same and have the same power. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a big idea that I want for us to highlight and keep in mind as we look in this expression down below. In this expression below, we are going to combine the squared terms, and then we'll combine the linear terms separately. Now, the constant is not like any other term in this expression. Let's see if we can identify those together. When I'm combining like terms, this is the process that I like to take. I like to, based on the power of my term, that's how many times I would underline it. So I'm going to go look for all of my squared terms, or power 2, and I underline them twice. So what do we have? This means that we have an x squared, and then it's minus 5x squared. Let's group those together. Then we're going to go in there and look at our linear terms. Those linear terms are those that are just underlined one time. Their power is an understood 1. Here's the other one, understood 1. Our squared terms we double underline. Let's double underline that in our notes there. And so what are we going to be adding here? A 3x, and to that a positive 4x. Now that constant is that term that is left over that has no one else to combine with. That constant is 5. So when we combine these, let's see what we have. We're just simply going to be adding our coefficients. So I have, in this first group, I have an x squared, which is an understood 1x squared. We don't need to put that 1 in front. It's an almighty 1. So what we're saying is 1 minus 5x squares. 1 minus 5 is a negative 4x squares. Then our linear terms, what are we going to do? Add the coefficients. Add the coefficients. That's all that is required of us when we are combining like terms. When we are combining like terms, we add our coefficients, or sometimes it is subtracting, which is just adding a negative. So add the coefficients. What are they? 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are the coefficients, so we will have 7x. That's our linear term. And then the constant is not like any other, so it is added at the end, not combined with anything else. This is our simplified expression after we have successfully combined all of those like terms. This is really all that we're going to be doing when we are adding and subtracting polynomials. We're going to be combining our like terms. If you're adding a polynomial with another polynomial, or several of them, all that we're going to need to do is follow these steps. Go ahead and rewrite it without the parentheses, so that what we have is just all of our terms being added, because really all I'm saying is plus a negative, which is really to say minus 2p cubed. Add to that a negative p squared, which is a negative p squared. Add to that a 6p, so that's adding 6p, and then add to that a 7. None of the signs in this second are going to change. None of the signs in this second polynomial change because we are adding. If you're adding a negative, it's really subtracting. If you're adding a negative, it's really subtracting. If you're adding something that's positive, adding a positive is addition. Adding a positive is addition. So we have rewritten without parentheses. Now we want to go ahead and group up our like terms. Here's a power 3, a power 3. Power 2, underline it twice. Power of 1, and then that constant of 7 is all by itself. So let's go ahead and group those up. We have 5p cubed and minus 2p cubed. Add to that our next, which is our squared, which is a negative p squared. Add to that your linear terms. We want to just keep going down in order of power. So this is a negative 4p, and then a plus 6p, and then last of all, the 7. Then all that remains is to simplify. 5 minus 2, we're going to be combining the coefficients here. 5 minus the 2 is going to give us a 3p squared. Then I'm adding a negative p squared. That's really to say subtract p squared. Adding a negative is subtracting. Then I have to add my 4p and my negative 4p and 6p. That's going to give us a positive 2p. And last of all, plus 7. There we go. That is addition, ladies and gents. Pretty straightforward. It is much like what we saw above. It's really just combining like terms, but being aware of the fact that we are going to want to add all of these terms. Now, subtraction is much like it. Subtraction is much like this, but let's take a moment to highlight this. Be careful to distribute that negative. Be careful to distribute that negative. So what does that mean? We're going to rewrite this. 5n cubed plus 2n squared minus 4. But then what are we doing? We are subtracting 2n cubed. Subtracting 2n cubed. That's like saying negative 1 times that term. It's going to make it negative. Negative 1 times my next term, negative times a negative makes this a 3p, a positive 3p. Oh, I apologize. That's supposed to not be a p, that's supposed to be an n. My apologies, let's fix that. We don't want p, we need the right variable. It's supposed to be an n. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that in there. It is a positive 3n. And then last of all, negative 1 times a negative 7 is going to make it a positive 7. So notice that for all of these terms here on this side, we were careful to distribute the negative. We were careful to distribute that negative, and it really just went ahead and changed the signs of each of those terms. Then it's like what we saw before. Let's group up those like terms, starting with the largest power. That's power 3, these. And then anything that's squared, anything that's linear, and then those two left over that have no variable with them, they are our constants. Let's go ahead and group them up. 5n cubed minus 2n cubed. Add to that our squared terms. Well, there's just the 2n squared. Add to that our linear term, which is just the 3n. Add to that our constants, which were negative 4 and positive 7. We've grouped up those like terms. Let me scoot this down just a little bit. There we go. And now we simplify. We want to, like we said at the top, we can go ahead and just add those coefficients when the variables are the same and have the same power. So because my 5 and my -2 are both n's to the third power, we just go ahead and combine those coefficient values. So 5 minus 2, that's going to be a 3n cubed. Then I have my squared term, which has no one to combine with, so it stays the same. My linear term, which has no one to combine with, it stays the same. And then last of all, add what is -4 plus 7. That's going to be adding 3. So there we go. That is our simplified expression. That is adding and subtracting our polynomials. Stay tuned. In our next video, we're going to look at multiplying. Until then, stay fired up, y'all.